Hello again, indie authors. Welcome back to Sid Mickle Publications. Today we're going to talk about two of the most important, I think critical elements in writing, and especially for us as independent authors. And those two elements are the opening, your hook to grab the reader's attention, and the second really important element is your pacing. And your pacing is going to take place from page 1 through page last. Your pacing must be done correctly. It has to have the right flow and the right tempo to hold on to that reader and to establish a real interest in completing that story. And we have to have really good writing all the way through, but these are two tactical things that I believe must happen. So let's talk about point one, and that is your opening, the hook. We are not well-known authors. We do not have the luxury of multiple bestsellers. We are our own entity, and we must grab the reader's attention probably from page 1 through about page 15 with, I think, just pure action. Really hook into their curiosity. Make that story so interesting that they want more of it. They want to stay with that opening chapter. If we do that great job with our hook in the beginning, we've got a great chance to get them through chapter 1. That means we've got a chance to write the next most important chapter, which is chapter 2. And why do I say that? Because chapter 2 is a transitional chapter. You've written your hook, the really exciting opening, and you've begun to give a little bit of information. Maybe background, as it's commonly known as world building or exhibition. It's details. I have a terrible habit of putting too much exhibition in my writing early, and I'm getting better at that. When we get to chapter 2, that second most important piece of our opening of the book, we've got to maintain that curiosity, that hook, that hold on the reader. But we've also now got to start developing characters. And you do that with information, with details. You can write the greatest information and give the most incredibly well-written details in all of writing. But if it's in the wrong place, you're sunk. Your book is not going to be successful. Your writing is going to suffer from it, unless there's some very strange circumstances. So let's just think about it. We open, they're curious, we get them into chapter 1. Now we're into chapter 2 with some more action, but the reader's mind is going to say, who, what, where, what is going on? They need some of that fill. Now, obviously, you would give some of the detail early on, but now you have a chance to, as I say, build characters, your primary, your secondary. Maybe you have a villain. You're going to try to add that detail. You're going to clarify some things. You're going to clarify the setting and the time. You're going to give this book, you're going to give the plot its real boundary. You're going to give it the milepost as you start through the body of this book. And as I said, you've got to write that very carefully. You've got to work very hard in chapter 1 and chapter 2 with an action-dominated mindset and filter in this backstory, this detail, to make sure that you accomplish both things. Action and why. Who and what are they doing? It's very easy to say those things. It's incredibly difficult to write it. And if you're an indie author, you know this already. My point being today, if we go back, because you know I'm always going to talk about editing, rewriting, the whole revision mindset of your book. You've got to have in your mind the whole sequence of these two very important elements. Always go with the hook and the excitement and the action. Don't write about how beautiful the setting was, how the leaves were changing, how the ocean breezes were, romantic. Don't write that in the opening. Write action. The last book that we're doing here is a part of a 10 video series. The action is opened up with a Civil War a soldier, a leader, being totally confused, lying in the grass, wondering if he's killed all his men, if he's hurt, understanding the disastrous things that happen in a war. And hopefully, the way we've written that grabs the attention of the readers and makes them think, what is going on here? Did he really get his men killed? Is he hurt? Is that what's going on in the book? Is there another main player? You want the curiosity element to take over in that beginning. Move them into chapter 2, start filling in that background. And then we go to the next part of our video today, and that is called pacing. When you think of the pace of your book, it cannot fall below a certain level. And the only way I think it's really relatable is to think about a line. If you go below this line with your pacing, your book, your story, your writing is beginning to become dry, boring, and you're going to lose the reader. If you get below a certain actionable level of pace, the reader is going to start dropping off. And if they even start down at another point, they're just going to give up and they're going to stop reading the book and they're not going to have a great experience. I believe if you can work very hard to keep your pace at an elevated rate, then with very key things that happen, and let me give you an example again from this book, book 8, Dying for Dixie. I think the pace is at a good place. Battles, decisions, the actions move that pace very high. There's this suspenseful thing that's going on. There are actions taken by different people in the command on both sides that are questionable, that are deadly, and that are, oh my God, what just happened? That is the pace moving up. Now, when we come off that action, it's important to go back to our established pace line. In other words, the book is going to have a certain flow and tempo, and it's got to maintain that. If we come off the action and we nosedive below that pace with just a lot of exhibition, we're going to bore the reader and they're going to give up. This is where the art of writing comes in, and you refine your ability to work in that art by your editing and your rewriting, making sure that when you find that pace dropping, you go back and you get to a point where the pace is high and you start rewriting. You maintain that very critical, exciting, and moving forward tempo of your book. If we can do those two things, open up with chapter 1 and 2 with excitement to make them want to care about this story and its characters, the pace that we keep will keep the reader's interest in the book as well. Again, like I said, it's not easy to do this. You have to be disciplined. You have to come back and tear your own writing apart. You have to be willing to take the story apart at every step. Now, last week I asked a question on a video. I asked, do you write a rough draft? Do you just run through it and come back and start editing your manuscript with a completed document? Some people said they did, and some people said they could never do that. Well, I'm in the never could do that group. I have to edit in blocks. Sometimes it's a chapter. Sometimes it's just 3 or 4 pages. I have to go back and really check it and read it. And I think that's an internal kind of alarm that goes off within a reader's own style. In your brain, you're thinking, did the pace just suddenly take a real nosedive? What can I do to keep that pace up and make sure that this book and this story is exciting and holding on to my reader? That's what I do. And I always nowadays am on guard, very much on guard for that world building and exhibition detail overload. And I've said this before, you can write the most incredible group of words in your detail. They can be magnificent sentences, paragraphs, and pages. If they're in the wrong place, they will kill your book. They can't be great words, pages, and paragraphs in the wrong place. If you get them into the right place and they're broken up in the right dose, the right number of sentences or paragraphs, it all fits together and the book maintains that pace, spikes. Now, one other thing I want to talk to you about pace is this. It's very hard to write that big spike of action over and over and over. Sometimes the action will be a smaller spike and come down. We've just got to make sure that when we write that smaller action, we don't again take that dip below that steady tempo of pace. We've got to make sure that we keep a certain standard from page 1 to page last with the pacing of our book. I would recommend that you read something. Go take the time and read maybe a shorter novel and try to get a sense of the pace. Get one of your favorite authors, someone who's very successful. Examine how they write. Examine their bumps up in action. Then they're coming off the action and where that pace line. What do they do to keep you interested in them? Those two things, I believe, can help our writing a great deal. And that's the things we should focus on. Last week, I mentioned that we're going to do a few videos off the subject of dying for Dixie because I'm involved right now in writing the body of the book, and we're making great progress. Maybe in a couple, 3 weeks, we'll come back and we'll examine in, I believe it will be video 4, where we are in writing that book. The last thing I want to do today is I want to do a little bit of a question, answer, and comment section. We haven't done that in a little while, but we've got some good questions, only a few today, but we're going to take a few minutes and do those. So, like I said many times before, first and last initials or something along that line without, giving away a name or too much information from the questioner. Here is a question from WRT. And here's a statement. I published a very good book last year, and in parentheses, crime fiction. And it goes on to say, I sold 19 copies. Self-publishing is hopeless. Well, I don't know a lot of detail from that statement. It's really not a question. It was a comment and a statement of real dissatisfaction. I understand that. Of the 7 books I've written, I've had a few books that I thought were very good that didn't sell a lot of copies. This is where we have to go back and we really, as independent writers, must get a grip on our writing. We have to, first of all, be selfish and write for ourselves. If you like that book, if you believe it's well written, if you believe it is really a good story, you want it to sell. I know you do. I do too. But if it's a great book and you're happy with it and you know you did all those very tough things, you followed that discipline, you got professional editing, you did a great cover, be happy. Take the win. There's not a book in this group that I don't feel that way. This was my second book, Who Killed Glenna? It sold less than half of the first book. I love this book. I wouldn't change a whole lot about this book. It just hasn't found an audience yet. It may never find an audience, but it is one of my favorite books, and it is the basis. It's the first book in a 3-book series. So it is very important to me, and I think it's very important to my writing mindset. So I hope that helps. Self-publishing can seem hopeless, but it's never hopeless if you're getting some satisfaction out of the work you've done. This is a question from JL9 to so-and-so there. Give too much detail there. Your channel has almost no views. Your advice means nothing. Okay, well, that is very true. Last week, I think I mentioned we had 58 viewers of a video. I thought one of the best videos we'd ever done. Great thumbnail, SEO-based title, all the things that all the YouTube gurus tell you, do this and boy, it will be fantastic. I had 58 views. A lot of creators, a lot of content creators would be really upset with that. I'm not upset with it. I'll be honest with you, I am not upset with it because 58 people looked at that video. The retention rate was in the 60% rate. Okay? 60% of that video was watched. That's a big deal to me. And I said, and I mean it to this moment, if we go to 28 or if we go to 8 views, I'll take it. I want to work with and talk to and be a part of a writing community of however many people want to pay attention to it. And I'm enjoying it, and I'm going to keep doing it. It's like the idea with the book not selling. If you love the book, you keep doing it. If you have a small number of views and you're enjoying it, you think you're helping 8 people or 58, then you can enjoy it a lot. Question next from JM. You said the action must start on page 1 to hook the readers. Don't I need to set up the story first? Well, obviously, I read this question before I brought it in today. It is what happens to a lot of us as indie writers. We get unsure. We say, oh my gosh, did I explain this character? Did I say where they're from? Did I tell you what they were doing at 14 before the story starts and they're 25? No, nobody cares. They may want to know some of that later on, but they don't want to know that in the beginning of the book, because if you tell them that, they're going to put the book away and not read it. So that's what we're talking about, the action on page 1. Get the reader to commit to chapters 1 and 2. Start adding your very interesting and well-written detail at the appropriate time. Don't do what I've done in the past and go back and do that world building and exhibition. It just will kill your book. Okay, this question is from TN. With a fictional novel set with actual historical events, do all key characters need to be made up? Well, no. In my opinion, no. And I don't believe there's any hard and fast rules. I've read a tremendous amount of books. Here's a book by James McPherson, Lost Triumph. Rick Atkinson, Army at Dawn. My favorite author, Jeff Shara. In their books, there are historical figures that have conversations that are their interpretation of the conversation. Now, I think if you were writing about a true life historical person and you wrote a terrible, negative, character assassinating thing, it would be a problem. But if you're writing a conversation that could have happened, and in your story did happen, that's an above negative story, I think you're just fine, because you're going to bring the fictional people into that setting. And I believe they need to interact with real people as they go through the book. It gives you the foundation of reality. Now, I'm probably very sensitive to this because I'm writing a Civil War fictional novel. The Civil War was very real. The people that were in it were very real. And to do a book about it, you're going to have your fictional characters cross paths with some of those people, some of the leadership. Maybe there's a brief conversation. The real true life people, you're not writing the story about them. You're including them in some of the details at the right time. Next question from HD. I enjoyed the pacing explanation. Can you elaborate on the concept of avoiding dips in pacing? Well, I think we did that in the video to a certain degree. It is just one thing that you have to keep in mind. Your pace has to be elevated, it has to be strong throughout the book. Now, some of your action is going to bump up the pace. It's going to take you to a very suspenseful, action-filled, emotional maybe, or scary or confusing, whatever event. When you come off that, it's just very important to get back to the pacing level. Don't dive into what they did when they were 15 and why they felt bad when they were 10 and what caused them to drop out of school. That's where you've got to avoid that dip. You can take that little bit of dip, but you can't nosedive the pace or the tempo of your book at any point. So when I talk about dips, it's the things you want to always avoid. What you want to have is a high rate of pace, and you can have a big jump or you can have a small jump, just as long as you go back to that steady pace. And I hope that was helpful. It's a difficult concept to explain, but as you're reading it, you get a sense of what the speed, the momentum of the book is being done with the action, the conversations, and the events that are surrounding your characters. Question last. This is from it's R.O. We'll leave the rest off. When will you publish this Civil War novel? Great question. That's why I wanted to make sure and throw that in. Well, we are into chapter 4. I think we have 12 chapters planned. I hesitate always because I'm not going to set a deadline if that's what RO is looking for. Sorry, no deadline. There is a goal of printing it by the end of the year. And boy, there's a lot of conversation. Do you publish a book in December? Terrible time. January is a terrible time to launch a book. February is a terrible time. I don't know what the right time to publish a book is. I'll try to do some research on that. I'll try to do a lot of research and say, is there truly a month that's worse than others? But I've got to write the book first. I've got to get this entire book completed, rewritten, revised, sent to a professional editor, adjusted, put a cover on it, and then publish it on KDP because that's what I'm going to do. I hope it's the end of the year. I hope it's not later than December 31st. It may be. Again, there are no deadlines because I'm the writer, I'm the publisher, and I'm also the marketer. So there are a lot of things that have to be set in place. And right now we're focusing on the writing. I hope this has been a reasonably positive session for all of you. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Come back next week. I think probably next Tuesday we'll launch the next off the series of 10 on the Civil War novel. We'll have some interesting things. Maybe the actual writing of the book will give us some really important topics. I think characters might be something we talk about next week and how to write them and how to write them better. But until we get back together next week, please take care of yourselves. You always know I'm going to say it. Go out with your friends and family and have some fun this week. It is just a very important part, probably the most important part of your week. But until next week, take care. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.